All right, what's up, y'all? Welcome. We got a wild one today. Got a wild guest. About to pull him in. My boy Tristan Tate. What's up? He's coming. Here he comes. Uh-oh. We'll get this boy up in here. Tristan Tate.
I think I can hear you.
There we go. I can hear you now.
Yep. Yep. Perfect. There we go.
What's up, dude? How are you? You doing good?
Yep. No, perfectly fine, man. Having a good night. It's 11 o'clock here. Just, relaxing. You've been speaking mainly to my cousin Luke, who runs my Twitter account. So he's been setting up this call, etc.
Yeah.
For me. I'm quite excited because obviously I put that tweet out the other day just as a matter of I don't care who sees it, I don't care who doesn't. And it kind of blew up. It was one of the biggest tweets I've put out in a while. I gained over 500 followers because of it. So I think everybody is looking for some sort of explanation. So I've already posted the link to this on my Twitter account. And I think there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be very interested to hear what I have to say. So I appreciate you having me on the show very much.
Yeah, man. Let's start, before we get into all that, let's go back a little bit because I'm new to your stuff. I got to watch a bunch of your videos. I watched some of your fights. I watched some of your brother's videos, fights. So I've been diving into your stuff the last couple of days, and a lot of cool stuff, a lot of good entrepreneurial advice, a lot of interesting stuff there. Why don't you start by telling us a little bit about you two, what you're known for? I know you guys are known, but maybe not to my audience. So
Yes.
tell us about you guys.
No, probably not known to your audience, funnily enough. My brother and I, we're known for living, I guess, what you'd call up until this point, I guess, a playboy lifestyle. We're self-made millionaires. We came from a very poor family, originally born in the United States and grew up in England. And people are very interested in our lives because our life path has been one that's been riddled with problems, issues, and it's all very complicated. But essentially now we live in Eastern Europe. We live in Bucharest, Romania, which is the most Christian country in the world. 98% of people here identify as Orthodox Christian, which was obviously a massive factor in my recent decisions. But yeah, my brother and I, we like fast cars. We've got 10 supercars between us. We've made a lot of money in our lives. We're both professional kickboxers. He was the world champion. I was the European champion, now retired. So from where we started in life, very few people actually make it up to where we are, which I think is why we have a massive audience, especially on platforms like Instagram. I've got almost 200,000 followers, young people looking for inspiration. I always preach, regardless of what business you're in, I always preach work ethic, teamwork, honesty, those kind of things. So that's what we're known for. If you don't know who I am, you could find me on Twitter at Livs Talisman or Instagram at Talisman Tate. That's me.
So how did this begin? Like, you guys were doing kickboxing, and then like who got the idea to let's expand into other business endeavors? Was there like a plateau where you were like, I can't kick any more heads, I'm done getting kicked? Or like, what happened to where you wanted to move into something else?
Yeah, well, kickboxing was an amazing thing in my life. Not necessarily for the money it made us, because in reality, it made us almost nothing. Me, almost nothing. My brother, very, very little. It's not a sport that has a big following. You don't get the $1 million paychecks, even if you're fighting a world level. But what it did make me is an exceptional number of connections. The people involved in the fight sports industry are very rich, very well-connected people. My first connections in Eastern Europe, certainly here in Romania, came through the fight sports industry. I was here commentating on various fighting shows, Super Combat, RXF, some of the world's, premier fighting events, and that's how I made a lot of my friends here. We diversified into other things. I'm now, I guess, essentially retired from the industry, but with me and my brother, and I will shamelessly say, I think that everything that happens in a man's past leads him to the point where he is today. So I will unapologetically say that my brother and I ran what's called a webcam studio for a while, where you have models and girls flirting and chatting with guys on the internet. And that's how we made our first $1 million. So we're quite well known for obviously being involved in that business. I did a lot of big interviews with people like Stefan Molyneux, Rollo Tomasi, Russia Today, the BBC, because it was a very interesting, I guess, industry for people to be involved in. It's something that very few people know anything about. Morally, I always have been, from a moral standpoint, against pornography. I think it should be as illegal as possible, because I've seen in my area of business, which isn't quite pornography, nobody's having sex, there's no fornication involved in it, but I've seen male addiction to this kind of content in a way that nobody else has seen. I know there are lots of guys on Twitter who are anti-porn and tweet about the evils of it, but none of them have seen the addicts in the way that I have. Nobody has seen the people, spending their grandmother's inheritance to spend more time talking.
You've literally had the dudes in like the overcoat with like nothing under, and they show up at your door. Right? You know what I'm talking about?
Look, I mean,
like the old image of like the pervert porn addict is the guy with the long trench coat who walks around naked.
No, very, very sadly today, and this is why I speak so openly about the industry. Very sadly today, it's your youngsters, people who have only ever known interaction with females on a digital level. So guys 18, 19, 20 years old, they get their first jobs. Keep in mind, unlike me or you, if we, found a girl cute when we were in school, we used to have to go and talk to her. Nowadays, it's Facebook messages, swiping them on Tinder. There is no real world interaction. So the whole male-female dynamic has been over-digitalized to the point where our young men, literally people who are the age of my young cousin, are getting their first jobs and blowing all of their weekly paycheck to consume adult content and to interact with women in this way, which I found, especially through my years in the industry, as a great, let's call it a moral evil, because it was always assumed upon me. The people who would interview me would always assume, they say, oh, what about your victims? As though the girls who worked for me were some sort of victim. I mean, they made great money. They were very happy. They didn't touch anybody. My victims were certainly, the victims in this industry are certainly young men. And the more I can voice my concerns from this side of the fence, I think the better it is for society.
Let's talk about a couple of those things, because a lot of people don't go in that direction when these discussions come up. Like, so a lot of times the pickup community and the social dynamics type of stuff, it gets a really bad rap, especially from feminists. And there could be bad actors in that, as there are in any of these fields. But one thing I do think is valuable is that it's not just like this tool of, oh, how can I psyop all these chicks into in my bedroom? You're actually learning a lot of, life skills. You're learning a lot of people skills. You're learning a lot of entrepreneurial skills that when you study social dynamics are going to be relevant to you, not just in terms of guy-girl relationships, but in everything. So there is value in a lot of these areas of the pickup community and men's rights and this kind of stuff that gets, shit on because it's perceived to be patriarchal or it's oppressive or women or all this nonsense. But what I'm trying to say is I view it kind of like guns. I believe in self-defense, gun rights, that kind of stuff. I mean, a gun is a tool. It can be used for good or bad. Social dynamics, understanding human psychology can be used for good or for bad. I mean, if you're doing advertising, if you're doing self-promotion for your website or your lectures, your comedy, whatever, you're going to have to engage in, human psychology, knowing these kinds of things. And guys don't have dads very often nowadays, especially like millennials all being raised by, single moms. And so guys will look to dudes online to find the male archetype. And I think that a lot of the guys who teach the social dynamics and that kind of stuff, they're kind of filling in that role of what a dad should do. Do you see that in what you do? Like young dudes being like, yo, I can't get laid, dude, help me out. But it's not just getting laid. It's like the whole persona, right? Because whether you're using this information to commit fornication or to get laid or just to find somebody that you want to be with, it's the same biological things that you're going to have to learn as a dude to attract a mate, or you're going to get used by a chick.
Exactly. And that's and the gun analogy is a fantastic one, because let's say you have a gun. Because
it's phallic.
No, yes, exactly. But let's say you only use the gun once or twice in your entire life. Say your home is invaded and you open fire on an intruder. That's it. You do no range work. You don't enjoy the gun. It's not your hobby. Let's say you use it once or twice in your life for self-defense. Yes, these skills at the bare, most basic level, if you use them for nothing else, they're going to help you avoid predatory women, because predatory women are out there in the world. And I'm not a woman hater, and I'm very much against the guys who preach all women are bad, women are looking to use men. I'm against that, because I've met some wonderful, amazing women in my life, and I believe that they are everywhere. And if you have the skills to find them, you will. But predatory women do exist as well as predatory people, predatory friends. So these skills at the bare basic level are going to stop you from falling into that kind of trap, losing your life savings, having a woman have some kids by you and run away with your children, that kind of thing. So I think the firearms analogy is very good, because at the very, as a last resort, it will save you from a very ugly future. And it's not something I preach to everybody. My brother and I, we always say, the way I've lived most of my young life, I don't pretend to be an archetype for young boys and young men. But obviously, when you are 12, 13, if you ask young teenagers or 12 or 13-year-old boys what they want to be in life, a lot of guys will say, I want a big house, a fast car, and a pretty girlfriend. That's what they'll say, and millions of dollars in the bank. So in one way, I am what a lot of youngsters aspire to be, but I'm very careful not to paint that as the norm or as something that's healthy for everybody. I think it takes a certain type of person to live this way.
I think what people our age, because you're probably roughly around my age.
32.
But yeah, I mean, I'm a little older. The younger dudes, you really hit on something that I'm noticing as a trend. We have a Discord server that I run that has, we got, I don't know, 2,000 or 3,000 dudes in there. And a lot of the guys in there, I'm not dissing anyone in particular, but there's a lack of experience in terms of what you said was the norm for people our age. Like when I was in high school, it was just normal that on the weekend you went out looking for chicks. Now, I don't mean that in a beta way. I just meant, hey, let's go find some girls. Let's go talk to girls. It's what you did during the week. When I went to college, it's like, I'm on campus, I'm here, I'm going out, I'm going to meet chicks. And you would go around campus meeting chicks. I was like looking forward to the next semester's classes. It's like, let's see this year's roster. Which chicks can I hit on this? And it was just part of, it's not predatory male like deviation. It's just part of what a male does, is that he goes out and he wants to meet girls and find his options and see what's out there, this kind of stuff. And then, like you said, because of the omnipotence of the internet, omnipresence of the internet, like you don't do that anymore. And so there's this key kind of like, almost like a passage right into adulthood or masculinity that a lot of dudes aren't going through.
Yeah, they miss out on it almost completely. And it's very scary, because women nowadays will paint a... actually, I saw a video once of a woman walking through New York City. And her point was, a bunch of dudes tried to hit on her. Hey, baby, how you doing? Hey, you look good in those jeans. Whatever they were saying. And she tried to make a point that this kind of interaction, she called it harassment. And she said it should be against the law and it should be illegal. And this was a big wake-up call to me, because I was running my webcam studio at the time, and I realized how bad this over-digitalization of relationships had become. Because I thought, who is this woman to say that, fine, no man should go up and touch a woman who doesn't want to be touched. Sure, that's assault. Absolutely. Keep your hands to yourself. But, hi, you're beautiful. You have nice eyes. Come and speak to me. At some point, this woman's grandfather walked over to this woman's grandmother and said something very similar. The same with her parents and her great-grandparents, going back thousands of years and thousands of generations. So for today, for a young woman to say, oh, well, a guy shouldn't say hi to me on the street, that's harassment. I'm like, well, is it harassment if you find him attractive? Is it harassment if you want to give him your number back? Is it harassment if you want him to take you on a date? It's only harassment, if they don't like the guy. So the world's gone absolutely insane with this internet, and it's not just the lack of ability to actually speak to women in the real world that men are finding. It's also the fear, especially in the West, in the United States, in England, Germany,
legal
France.
retribution.
Yeah, it's the fear. If you speak to a woman at work and you give her a compliment that goes slightly too far, I like your shirt. Oh, you like the way my shirt fits on my body? Boom, sexual harassment. You've lost your job. So you have to be very careful these days. You really do, and I hear that a lot from the. I heard that a lot from the customers in the webcam industry. Guys who, you know, older guys, they work at offices. They're always paying webcam girls to do secretary role play and, you know, daughter's girlfriend from college role play and all that kind of stuff. A massive one right now is, believe it or not, I mean, like I said, I do work in this industry. Please, I know it's not for your audience, but it's very good to lay the truth out there. A big one right now is stepsister role play, because a lot of dudes have their dad or mother marry somebody else, and their kids from their previous relationship, their daughters, for example, are the only women that these guys interact with. These guys have no interaction with any woman in the real world and never have because of the internet. But suddenly there's a half attractive girl who is now their sister living in their house, hugs them, kisses them, talks to them. It's the only interaction they get. So it becomes fantasized about to the level where it's blown up in the adult entertainment world. And frankly, and like I said, I find it sickening. And with my industry, I'm very much like, I know Muslim shopkeepers who don't drink alcohol that sell alcohol themselves because they know it's a product that people consume. Running my webcam studio, I very much felt like that, because I'd look at the interactions between my customers and the models who worked for me and just think, wow, this is not good for these guys. They need to get off the internet and need to go out into the real world, but they won't. And me closing down my studio, or, you know, before I did close it down, would not have prevented it. So yeah, I know I'm going to be called a hypocrite, but that's very much the way I see my own industry, which is.
Well, let's maybe now we can get to that. Like, before we get to the religious element of it, what is your analysis of the current state of the female mind? So you've talked a lot about dudes,
yes,
and their issues. From your vantage point, what do you see in the women that you interact with, and in terms of like women today who are looking for a husband? Do you see that there's a mutual problem there, or relationships? I mean, is it mainly on the side of dudes?
The problem that has come about when it comes to women is not a problem at all. Women are just, and I don't want to take a dump on half of the red pill guys, but all of these dudes preach about how women are just looking for the best man, and women are looking upwards, and women are always, you know, reaching above their level. But in their universe, a 19-year-old virgin, beautiful girl who works at McDonald's should be dating a 19-year-old man who works at McDonald's. But I don't see it that way, because I see a woman's beauty and her innocence and these things. That's her currency. That's what she brings to the table. So she's a million levels above the 19-year-old dude who works at McDonald's, if you know what I mean.
Right, so unrealistic expectations, yeah.
Yeah, the red pill doesn't see it this way. They see it as women aiming above their station, and I completely disagree with most of them on this. I think women have always sought out the best man,
sure,
in terms of what is available to them. And I've got a very good example. So I was dating a girl recently from a very small town here in Romania, a town called Deva. It's a city you never would have heard of.
You're not near a castle, are you? Like a Dracula's castle?
There is a castle in the city of Deva, yeah, there is.
Is that Transylvania? Is that near Romania?
No, Transylvania is a county in Romania.
Okay, so stay away from the chicks that try to draw you into that castle. I'm just warning you.
Yeah, exactly. I love the castles here. But yeah, anyway, this girl, 25 years ago, she would have been dating a guy from her hometown who, you know, she liked from college or high school or whatever. But instead, she was dating me because Instagram exists. This girl was just a normal 19-year-old girl. She was a virgin when I met her. She had 100,000 followers on Instagram because she's that smoking hot. So she's dating one of the most famous, I don't want to say richest, because I don't think that's particularly why women go for me, because I had girlfriends when I was broke. But I'm certainly one of the most high-profile men in this country. And now she's dating me. And men in Deva who are maybe her age may say, oh, well, women are always, you know, aiming above their station. You know, women are opportunists. And I think it's very natural for women to be this way. Just like it's natural for you when you're in high school and college to go out and say, let's meet some chicks. It's natural for women to try and find the best guy. And the internet has given them access to the entire world. A hot girl will get hit up by guys with blue check marks next to their name from Italy to Dubai to Japan to the United States, even if they're from a Romanian village. So the problem is very much in the man's court, because men need to be better than they used to be to get the same quality of women. Working in a factory and doing a 9 to 5 is not going to find you a beautiful wife who's a virgin, who's going to cook and clean and bear you 5 kids.
And one thing that seems to be missing that I don't understand about MGTOW is the desire to give up and like check out. I mean, maybe if you're like a slow boy with a slow IQ and you've got that little bit of that D syndrome going on, you're probably not going to get a supermodel. But if you're another normal type of dude who can, you know, go to the gym, who can lose weight, who can improve himself, I mean, why would you not want to be involved in that level of competition where you are trying to, you know, better yourself so that you can get, you know, a mate in, you know, your strata, in your social market value situation, so to speak. It seems like a lot of people are taking this easy route, like, oh, I'm just going to check out. It's easier. And then they're miserable because what they don't have. And that produces the resentment of guys that are successful, guys that have, you know, beautiful wives and girlfriends.
Well, first and foremost, I'm going to say that I don't believe MGTOW is even a real thing. And I'm going to tell you why. Because the guys who preach this rely heavily on substitutes. So it's like me saying, you know what? I'm giving up heroin. I'm a heroin addict. I'm going to give up heroin, but taking methadone and crack and other things. So these guys will say, oh, well, women, who wants women? I don't need women in my life. Very heavy consumers of pornography. So they're looking at women all day. Obviously, they desire women sexually, more so than a normal, healthy guy like I would. They preach about using sex dolls and female robots that have conversations with them. They substitute women so heavily in all of this sick, depraved nonsense that I don't even believe MGTOW is a thing. Because who are you to say you've given up on women, but you're watching pornography for 4 hours a day? You obsess with women more than I do because I don't watch pornography. You know?
That's a good point. Yeah, it's actually not checking out, is it? Yeah, I hadn't even thought about that.
No, it's not checking out at all. And not only that, but the mantra they repeat is the juice isn't worth the squeeze. And I think it's not worth the squeeze for them because they're such low value dudes who mix with the lowest value women. You know, the sluts, I don't know, ex-strippers, the girls who use drugs. They mix with the lowest quality women because they're the lowest quality of men. And these women give them headache. They cause them problems. They sleep with their best friends. And they're like, oh, well, the juice isn't worth the squeeze. I squeeze very lightly, and the juice is delicious. I have beautiful, wonderful women around me. I've had some amazing relationships in my life with some very, very special women. And it's been worth it every time. But then again, I've put in the work to become a high-value dude, and I can attract those kind of things.
As Woody Allen would say, the juice is very much worth the squeeze.
Exactly. Yeah, it is.
That was a double entendre there. By the way, we do have a couple super chats I'll read before we progress into more of this interview. Nick Jones for $10. He says, I have nothing to say. Well, thank you. I will take your $10 and your nothing to say. But I did want to say thank you. Well, so you do have something to say, right? But thank you for that, Nick Jones. That's funny. I have nothing to say, but here's $10 and I want to say thanks. Devi for $4.18. Can you do a Jesse Lee Peterson? That's amazing. I'd do it. That's amazing. How's that? There's my Jesse Lee Peterson impersonation. I bet you would have fun talking to him. Yeah, somebody just asked me before the show, would you go on Jesse Lee Peterson? Yeah, sure. Why not? I've not been asked, but I would go on. I think he had Roosh on. Bogdan, $5. Jay, may God bless your new family. My question is, do you consider space fake? Space is fake and gay. It's not just fake. That's my joke. Copyrighted. Space is fake and gay. Aliens are always doing butt stuff. Therefore, space is fake and gay. I agree with you, but I want to know your opinion. It's a joke, Bogdan. I'm not literally saying space is fake. It's actually there. It's just a joke. Nabil for $10. Congratulations on your wedding. Thank you, Nabil. Much appreciated. And by the way, if you do want to support the stream, super chats are via Streamlabs now, as you guys know. So thank you for those fat super chats. Keep them coming. All right. So, Tristan, what got you questioning things at a bigger level? Do you feel like like you had all of the. And by the way, before we do that, is the story of the Arab sheiks in United Arab Emirates or whatever that like to hire the Instagram chicks just to poop on them? Is that true or is that made up?
No, you were talking about small fringes of society. So escorts are escorts. I personally, I've never, I don't run escorts. I've never been involved in that business. I've never been.
I know.
Okay, all right, cool. Well, anyway.
I just thought that there was that story going around that like some Arab sheik hired a Instagram chick to poop on.
No doubt it happened, but it doesn't. It's not the norm of anything that these girls are doing. And I know the guys who run all the big escort agencies because most of them are Romanians. So I know that doesn't really happen. So there you go. I've answered the question.
Maybe Dracula is real and he really is at the top of all this pyramid. No, I'm joking. At this pyramid.
Well, he was a real. I mean, based on a real person.
Oh, I know. Yeah. Well, he was actually a Catholic, or he might have even been No, I guess it would be Catholic, and he would put the Islamic invaders' heads on poles. So
yes,
yeah, I know about that. But so do you feel like you had the taste of all of Earth's pleasures, and then you wanted more, and that got you looking in the direction of like big questions about what's the meaning of life and that kind of stuff?
No. It's a story that I don't think is the typical, let's call it for now a conversion story. It's something different to almost anything I think you may have heard. Essentially, it boiled down to this. In terms of looking at the big questions, it's been something that was very interesting to me from a very young age. 11, 12 years old was the first time I read the Bible. I've also read the Quran at that age. I was a bit of a nerd. I liked to debate with the other kids in school, and I found myself an atheist. And when I mean an atheist, I mean an atheist, like 100% absolutely can't be a God, doesn't exist. The holy books are all full of mistakes. Screw that. I was that guy for a very long time. And there gets to a point where you look at the other people around you who agree with you, and you realize that they're not your people. You know, I've lived in Romania for the last 5 years. I'm very good friends with the head priest at a monastery in the north of Bucharest. He makes me wine and various alcohols, etc. And I used to go up there just because I appreciated the beauty of these old churches. And I began speaking with these people, and I realized Romania. Most of your viewers don't know anything about it, but let me tell you something. You are safe to walk down the streets at night. Beautiful women will walk down the streets at night with money in their purses and their short skirts on, and nothing bad happens to them. It's a country where the police shot one person last year, and that was it. And I mean, the capital city had 7 murders last year. One of the safest capital cities in all of Europe. Now, yes, Romania has had its problems. Back in the revolution, back when there was extreme poverty, yes, Romania did have its problems. But we're talking about 2020. And the cornerstone of Romanian society is Orthodox Christianity. Almost everybody you meet here identifies as an Orthodox Christian. And society here is very peaceful and very normal. And I was happy to live as an atheist within the society and reap the benefits of an old school, let's call it Christian society, with all of their morals and all of their goodness, and just, piggyback their society as an atheist. And it was about last year when I was looking at the then United States, which is my country of birth. And I realized that all of these people who I used to follow on Facebook and Twitter, these writers, Richard Dawkins, Sam Harris, all these big atheist guys, and all the atheists who follow them, when you give up your faith, it leaves a power vacuum. England left a power vacuum, which was filled with Islam, and that's nothing negative to say about the Muslims. If they leave a power vacuum and the country's there to take over, go and take it over. I have friends who are Muslims. Good. That's their fault for giving up their faith. They laid down their arms, so to speak. That would never happen in Romania because these people still maintain their faith. Now, the United States is very much divided. You have the old school, let's call them the Christians. The Christians is a perfect term. You have the old school Christians who are raising families and being productive and trying to maintain conservative values within reason as much as possible. And you have all the people who I used to identify with, the atheists. And back in my, let's call it childish teenage mindset, I thought an atheist society, that would be wonderful. No one will fight, no one will argue. I look at the United States, I see drag queen story time. I see people bragging about the number of abortions that they've had, as though it's a competition and a sport. And I realized that the battle for the soul of the world is very much on. And before that struggle comes to Romania, as it inevitably will as part of the European Union, I'm identifying with the side that I morally agree with. And I've just thought, the people in Romania are no different to the people anywhere else. There must be something more than just human psychology behind why this is such a nice society. There must be something more than just, people being scared of an imaginary God. There must be something maybe spiritual to it. So I'm very much an entry-level Christian. I'm very much taking the first steps on the path, I guess, to because I'm getting all these comments about, oh, well, you're a hypocrite. You do this and you shouldn't do that. I mean, I'm entry-level at this point. But my eyes have been opened, and I realize I need to be on the side of good and not on the side of evil.
Yeah, I think I mean, a lot of people do begin to move in that direction through like the history, the tradition, the socio-cultural influences of Christianity or Orthodoxy. I mean, that's a good thing. I mean, that's part of the reason why the church has historically, influenced the arts, influenced, literature, society, is because that's natural. That should be there. It's a great entranceway, a great doorway into these bigger questions. I mean, I think that what happens I mean, it happened to me at one time, when I was younger, you start asking these bigger level questions, and I went into philosophy and all that kind of stuff. And what happens is it's almost like there's tiers to it. Like you start with, why does America believe this in the Constitution? And then you kind of raise the bar of like, so then you think, oh, well, there's a socio-cultural influence of Christianity in history. And I started reading about, that kind of stuff. And then you get into these higher order questions and you start asking things like, well, which of the churches is right? Well, which God is right? How do we compare these two? Is it all false? And so you end up kind of relying on some things like logic, reason, and so forth. And then if you're an atheist, you start asking questions like, what is it? What is logic? Right? What are the things themselves that we're referring to in all these conversations? So when we talk about reason, when we talk about logic, when we talk about even history or time or any of these are philosophical concepts that if you think about it and reason through it, you can't identify those with anything in time and space. And so things like numbers, things like mathematical propositions, truths, mathematical entities, abstract concepts. Once you start looking at more abstract concepts like what I'm saying, you start to realize that we can't just have a purely material universe. The purely material universe is self-refuting because it leads us into a determined causal chain. You mentioned some of the new atheists. Some of them openly affirm this, that we're just purely programmed robots. If that's the case, then you're not making the decisions that you're making. You're not a you. There's no I. There's no real self that underlies all those experiences that you're having in your life. So I've just always found that philosophy was, for you, maybe the socio-cultural aspects of what got you into it. For me, it was philosophy and asking these bigger questions and kind of reasoning myself into Orthodox Christianity. But there's different doorways that people can take into these things. And I think that the traditional cultural route is definitely a good one. It's there for a reason. And you said, but you're not Romanian. You just live in Romania, right?
Well, I'm now a citizen of Romania.
You are? Okay.
Up until 7 years ago, I'd never stepped foot in this country. So I have no Romanian heritage as such. But when it came to the choices of church, you couldn't put me in a society of Buddhists and I become a Buddhist. I'm not that easily influenced.
Right.
But I was sitting with, it was very much looking at the United States, the Christianity versus atheists, let's call it an argument. And now the people who were originally guys who I considered on my side, I look at them and I detest them, literally. And speaking with a lot of the bishops and the Orthodox Christian priests here, they were talking about Catholicism. And I'm sure some Catholics watch your show, and I don't wish to talk negatively about it, so I won't. But I will say I was in a monastery where the man had not left the grounds of the monastery since 1969. All through communism, all through the revolution, the head of the priest up there, the head priest up there had not left the confines of this monastery. There's a beautiful lake, there are beautiful grounds, there's farmland, etc. But he hadn't stepped foot off. So he said, "Are you a Christian?" I said, "Yeah, of sorts. So you can call me a seeker. I'm obviously interested in it. I've read the Bible, but I wouldn't call myself a Christian." He goes, "Well, whatever you do, stay away from Catholicism." So what do you mean? He talked about the Great Schism, obviously 1054. All Orthodox priests will talk about that for a million years. But his point was, he was talking about the influence of the new Pope. And the new Pope, who apparently, this guy was talking about George Soros and his influence on the Catholic Church. Keep in mind, he hadn't left this little area of the world, no more than 2 or 3 square miles.
But he was still woke.
Yeah, very, very woke indeed. And a lot of the things that the new Pope is saying, the Pope of Catholicism, are exactly the kind of things that I'm trying to move away from in my journey towards Christianity. So, like, would I really ever, take Catholicism seriously? No.
Yeah, we often say around my circles in my Discord that Pope Francis is actually the best Orthodox apologist out there. Like he makes more people Orthodox than I could ever do.
Oh, indeed.
But so that's interesting. So what do you think about the liturgies? Because what really got me interested in Orthodoxy, yeah, you read all the books and stuff like that, but what really surprised me was when I actually started going to the liturgy, and it has this transformative effect. I think the more that you actually just go and spend time there in the liturgy and doing it is what is the biggest kind of renovator of our being.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I've keep in mind a lot of things have been closed here because of the coronavirus. I used to spend I'm taking a more, let's call it a personal touch. I literally go to the original reason why these people started contacting me when I was visiting all these various monasteries. It started off as me being interested in the architecture. I'd go in, I'd give some money, but because I always turned up in these flash fancy cars and I was a foreigner, usually it's the typical Romanian making pilgrimage to these places. The priests and the people in charge have always had an interest in who I was and what I was doing there. So the number of hours I've sat and spoken with priests who most people simply wouldn't get an audience with. I've been shown I've been shown art collections from underneath these monasteries where the replicas of these paintings are hanging in museums in Italy, but the originals are here underneath some Romanian monastery somewhere. The time I've spent with these guys has been, I think, one of the biggest influences to my conversion, because I see that this is where society and civilization is maintained. The world's on fire in a lot of parts of the world and people are burning down entire cities. But here in this monastery, the classical civilization of European culture is untouched. These people are like they're from a different time. It's literally like stepping back in time when you go into some of these places. So it's been hours of conversation in my very broken Romanian. If I do have an interpreter, I'm very happy to have one with me. And that's been, I think, my main, let's call it catalyst, that's dragged me into it. Sitting with these very, very important people who know more than, they've studied this their entire life. It's their life's work, essentially. 50, 60, 70 years reading the same things and studying the same stuff. So amazing people. And that's what's converted me. But I am looking for a local church. Everything's shut down right now because of the virus. And I will be attending, once everything opens back up.
Yeah, Romania is great. One of my favorite theologians, Father Dumitru Staniloi, I recommend his books often. His book, Orthodox Dogmatics, and the Experience of God, is really, really good, especially Volume 1. I highly recommend that if you have. And then, of course, Elder Cleopa of Romania is one of the famous Orthodox elders from Romania. By the way, in our Discord, we actually have one of the chief apologists in our circles is Father Deacon Dr. Ananias, and he is in the Romanian Archdiocese. So we have a pretty close connection too. Yeah. And his priest actually had to flee Romania under the communists. So yes. We have a pretty close connection to Romanians in my Discord.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, no, the communists tried to stamp out religion the same way the Soviet Union and the USSR did, but it simply didn't work in Romania. It just moved everything underground. But most of the big monasteries and churches, the people, as I said, the guy who's been in power, who's been on his ground since 1969, the communists, even though they tried to make a point of stamping out religion, they were literally too afraid to mess with these people, because the church holds a lot of the political power in this country. Not a single member of parliament gets elected without the blessing of the church. The church says you should vote for this guy, that guy gets elected. And that's the way it is. The power is still very real. And, you know, I read these stupid memes online from the old, I'm still a member of all these old atheist groups on Facebook that I joined when I was a teenager. And people will say stupid things like, you know, oh, there was a time when Christianity was in charge of the world. It was called the Dark Ages. No, there was a time when humans didn't have technology. It was called the Dark Ages. Don't bring Christianity into this, because people always abuse their power. But I look at this society where religion very much is in charge as compared to a lot of countries. And as I said, one of the safest capital cities in all of the European Union, crime rate about 1/6 of what it is in the United Kingdom. Yeah, it's a wonderfully safe and beautiful place to live.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to be rude. I was just pulling this out because this was a wonderful wedding gift I just got from my godfather who...
Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah, we had a wonderful Orthodox service. I was honored to have that. But my godfather gave me this gigantic 3-volume famous... Now, prior to this, I only had the abridged Julian Norwich History of Byzantium. But the reason I'm bringing it up is because a lot of people don't know that most of the cultural achievements that we think of as Middle Ages, a lot of that is from Byzantium. It's not from Roman Catholicism. It's from Byzantium, things like hospitals and this kind of stuff, universities. But actually, the history of Byzantium is suppressed in the West. And so that older Orthodox culture that you're talking about that Romania still possesses, we call that the first Europe. So that's like the Europe of the first 1,000 years of Christianity. You are well aware of the 1054 split. But,
of course.
I mean, if you look at actual history and what's suppressed in the West, because if you take like philosophy courses or history courses in modern universities in the U.S., they'll go from Plato and then they'll skip to Descartes. Literally. So nothing happened between Plato and maybe Augustine. Maybe you'll read a little selection of the Confessions, and then you'll skip over to Descartes. It's just ludicrous. And it's that way on purpose. They don't want you to know about the fact that there's all of these great historical instantiations of Orthodoxy stamped into culture, especially in Byzantium, Romania, places that you're talking about.
Yeah, because when I hear about, especially, I'm going to get a bit nerdy on you, but when I speak to Americans about Romania, they think it's a Slavic country with a Slavic language. Romania means land of the Romans. It's a Latin language.
Romeoid. Yeah.
People think that when Rome fell, that was the end of the Roman Empire. No, that was the end of the Western Roman Empire. There were still people walking around in togas and emperors and legionnaires here in Romania, as in Turkey, where modern-day Istanbul is Constantinople, that called themselves Romans for hundreds of years, and that eventually shifted into the Byzantine Empire, of course. But people think that that civilization crumbled the moment Rome fell. No, it certainly crumbled in the West, but and obviously there were numerous attempts by Byzantine empires to retake the rest of the empire, but they fell on some bad luck, unfortunately. But I find it very shocking that a lot of Americans, of course, don't know this. They think that do you speak Russian in Romania? No, we don't speak Russian. Why would we speak Russian? Do you speak Spanish in America? Like, shut up. It's the level of ignorance is massive, but you're saying they do it on purpose.
Yeah, no, the education system is intentionally excised, edited, cut down, and omits things 100% on purpose. In fact, Charlotte Iserbyt, who was the head of education under Reagan, she was put in that office. She's the one that noticed back at that time that they had done all of this reorganization of education for socialist type of purposes. In her book, Deliberate Dumbing Down, she actually demonstrates this with like intentional documentation. And then there's another book that documents this all the way back to John Dewey and the founders of like American public socialist education, that the purpose of it was to socialize and to not teach you how to learn, but to teach you to be socialized. Okay, so William James, I think William James is part of it. There's these Unitarian dudes, I always forget their name, but they're the fathers of American public education. There's a book that Rushdoony wrote on it that's really good called The Messianic Character of American Education. I highly recommend that book if you want to read on this topic. But it's just pointing out that it was intentionally modeled after the Prussian socialist system to compartmentalize things, to break down education so that you don't make higher level connections. They don't want you to make a connection between what happens in biology and what you're studying over here in logic. Because if it did, then you would notice that, oh, actually, there's a logic to biology. And that would mean that we're not purely programmed robots.
Yeah, and you can see this in every part of American society. I mean, if I ever go to the United States, when I go to the United States, I'm always in somewhere like LA, New York, the kind of place. I don't enjoy it, I'll be perfectly honest, and I'm speaking as an American. But every time I meet a girl and she's like, oh, yeah, I went to college, I went to university, I know the things that come out of her mouth are going to be intolerable in terms of her worldview and what she thinks is right and wrong. And the American education system is really screwed up because it does program people. And I've seen it. I mean, when my cousin, God bless him, when he first came over here from the United States, he was 19 when he first came to visit me. And it took us a few weeks to deprogram him. He thought so many things about the world that were so fundamentally false through no fault of his own. But now he's 23 now. He's got his mind back in the right place because he's hanging out with us in a sane part of the world where where society is still intact. And it's people like you and your family and loads of people. I mean, people like one of my favorite journalists, Jack Posobiec. I don't know if you know him. He's a Catholic, Polish ancestry, but he lives in the United States. When I watch people like him speak and tweet and talk, I'm like, these people are who's holding society together. None of the people who I used to identify with are holding society together. All they're happy to watch it burn, and it's tragic. So I mean, as an American, thanks for staying in the States and obviously fighting the good fight, because I'm not moving back.
Yeah, well, I've looked at the possibility of expatriating and considered that because things. I mean, it's almost like we're having a Bolshevik revolution set loose right now. I just tweeted out the Duran did a good video yesterday covering what's happening in America as a kind of repeated Bolshevik revolution. They were literally comparing all of the striking similarities between the way that the Bolsheviks were like making up these crazy stories about the Tsar being in a secret league with Germany and that they were going to destroy Russia from within. It was all made up. It was all fake. It's like that's exactly the same Russiagate hoax about the Trump secretly works with Russia and he's destroying America for Putin. Well, literally the people saying that are the ones that have like the protesters out there like burning down entire cities. It's just
destroying America.
It's ludicrous.
Literally destroying America. And in America, I've tried my best to have rational discussions with Americans about what's going on. I mean, I don't know if you can see about me or not. My skin's darker than yours. My father was black. He was black. He was African American. So half of my family are black Americans. The other half are white Europeans. And I like to think I have a very non-biased view on this. And every single time there's an incident, obviously police kill people indiscriminately in the United States. And the police, they are, a lot of them are too trigger happy and need better training. I agree with a lot of it. But every time I look at a situation, I call everything case by case and I write it out on my Facebook. So sure, don't lean on a man's neck for 8 minutes and 30 seconds. What the fuck are you doing? You're an idiot. But the guy who ran to his car very recently reached into his car. Like there are videos of people doing that and then blowing the cops away. And you should know that if you go reach into your car, the cop's going to open fire. And I called it. I said, you know what? That guy, he was disobeying the police. He reached into his car. No one knows what he was reaching for. So I've said this and I get accusations from family members of myself calling me a racist. I'm like, well, if a mixed race, half black man living in Europe can't look at a situation and objectively make a call and say this is wrong or this is right and that's right and this is wrong, because the cops aren't always right. The criminal's not always right. If you find yourself falling on one side of the argument 100% of the time, you need to think about your own mindset and your own critical thinking. And this is what I try to explain to people, but I'm getting called a racist by like literally my dad's cousins. And it blows my mind. In America, there is no fighting this mindset where, if a man like me, and my dad was one of the best black chess masters of all time. I'm very proud of my African-American heritage. I can't say that the police made a correct call without being called a racist. So God help the rest of you.
It's like I keep thinking to Batman Dark Knight, with Bane and how now Bane was. If you hold a cup up, my buddy told me this. If you hold a cup up, you can do a perfect Bane impersonation. If you think of Bane's revolution, it's worse than what was the problem in the existing regime, right? So he thinks that he's going to let loose this sort of anarcho-communist style revolution, and it ends up being far worse than the problems in the existing order. That's exactly what's happening now. It's like the utopian Bolshevik type of idea. It just doesn't work, and it makes things way worse, because you can't force humans to operate perfectly according to ideals. That's even the impetus for technocracy. All of this, we're going to get brain chips and all this nonsense. It's all predicated on the idea that man's problem is because he possesses free will, because he has agency. If we can just stamp that out and turn everybody into programmed robots, or a version of programmed robots, then everything will be fine. Then we can fix the problems in the world. And it's all utopian, based on unrealistic ideals. And every time, it's what's amazing to me is, like, every time these ideals try to be stamped into history, it leads to chaos, carnage, bloodshed, collapse, and people can't remember this. Right now, there's high level elites, I believe, that know that, and they want the collapse for consolidation purposes, to buy things up, whatever. But the lower level people, like, how can you actually believe that any of this is ever going to work?
Well, the beautiful thing about some of these countries, and do not take this as an advertisement for coming to live in Romania. Romania is it's not a very, let's call it, it's not hostile to outsiders, but coming to move here is very difficult. If you don't know somebody, you don't know people. I'm not advertising coming to live in Romania. Dude. But but one of the beautiful things about living out here is, because they suffered, the word is suffered, through communism up until 1989, no matter how poor someone is, no matter how disadvantaged someone is, they know the answer isn't communism. This movement for a communist overthrow that you see in the United States, which is growing and is quite terrifying, the Romanians laugh at us. They laugh at the Americans.
Right. I
was driving my my Lamborghini, speaking with I went to play chess in the park with an old Romanian gentleman. He said to me in Romanian, I'll translate. He said, something like, you have your Lamborghini around Romania. Did you move from the United States because everybody in your country hates rich people now? I said, no, I moved from the United States when I was a kid. Like, that's not the reason. He goes, well, everyone in your country hates rich people, but be careful. That's how it starts. And I was like, that's quite profound. So this guy must have been about 80 years old, or 85. He was a very old man. But the hatred of the rich. He says, that's how it starts. Be careful. And it's warnings like that. I just wish that these people who believe communism is such a good idea could come over here and speak with some of the people that I've spoken to, and get to know some of the elderly people that I know, because it should change their mind, but I'm not sure it would.
Did any of that contribute to your questioning of atheist types of systems? Because in my perspective, like, if you're an atheist, you could fall on two sides of a dialectic. Like, so if you're a Marxist or a socialist, you're like, oh, we got to all support the collective. But you could also conversely be a libertarian atheist and be like, oh, no, it's just about me, bro. Screw the rest of you. Now, maybe it's more fun to be on the libertarian side of things, but if you're an atheist, there's no reason why, objectively speaking, one is better or above the other one, other than just a personal preference.
Yeah, no, it would have been a personal preference. But when I was an atheist, I guess I was on the side of, you know what? I've always had a healthy respect for religions that assert their power in a certain way. And I believe that, as I said, atheism, a single man being an atheist isn't world ending. No one's going to become an atheist. I know some atheists kill people, cool. Some Christians kill people. Some Muslims kill people. Some Jews kill people.
Well, that's a fact.
No one becomes an atheist and thinks, oh, there's no God, I'm going to go on a killing spree. Because I was an atheist for years, and I never, something so ludicrous never crossed my mind. But I think society becoming atheist is exceptionally dangerous, because it leaves a power vacuum that has to be filled. Now, this is like it's like the Second Amendment argument in the United States.
Yeah.
So in America, everyone has guns. So everyone in the world has their religion. And to be an atheist society, what you're doing is still living in the United States where everyone's armed and saying, you know what? I don't like guns. I'm going to put my guns down. The Muslims are not going to put their guns down. They're not going to put their religion down. they're going to move into your country and build their mosques and propagate their religion all over the place.
Disarmament and pacifism are tools of other foreign powers and elite social engineers. It's obvious. Yeah. I'm glad you said that.
With Marxism, socialism, it's exactly the same thing. These people say, "Oh, well, I don't believe in anything." Well, you're a socialist. You're a Marxist. Your religion has become a form of.
Well, the collective becomes the new God principle that everyone must serve.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I never fell into that myself. I never fell into it. I was happy living my life, running my porn company, making my money, driving my cars around. I was perfectly happy. I never fell into that. But I saw that so many people do fall into that because so many people need something to believe in. So my I guess let's call it my journey to Orthodox Christianity. And now, when I fill in a census from now on, I'll identify as an Orthodox Christian, but I'm very much taking baby steps into it right now. It's trying to be on the right side of history because I've seen the destruction that my kind of thinking causes when adapted en masse by stupid people. And my father always used to say, half of people have a below average IQ. And that's just the way it is. So, these people, they put down their Bibles and they put down their Jesus and they pick up their socialism, their feminism, their intolerance, their everybody's racist. They look for a new crusade that has no moral justification or even reason. And it's destroying the world. So I'm on the right side of history, I think.
Give me something to believe in.
Yeah.
If there's a Lord above, give me some. I'm singing Poison now. Yeah. A lot of the population is a bunch of not so beautiful slow boys. There's beautiful slow boys out there, and then a large portion of the population is, like your dad said, not very pretty slow boys. So if you're going to be a slow boy out there in the population, try to be a pretty one. Pretty slow boy. Where are we at? I had a couple more questions. Could you beat Butterbean in a fight?
He's very old now. He's got a puncher's chance. I was a European champion kickboxer. I'm no walkover. I'm a professional athlete myself. He's very old, but I mean, in the first, if I went more than 2 or 3 rounds, I may be able to pick him off. But he could knock me out in the first couple rounds. He's a ridiculously hard puncher, and the power he will still have. The power is the last thing to go. The stamina goes, the accuracy goes, the fitness goes, that all goes, but the power is the last thing to go. These heavyweight boxers at 60, 70 can still throw power punches. So,
could you beat Joe Rogan in a fight?
But Joe Rogan, Jesus, I don't know. You know what? It depends what you mean a fight.
He said it. Oh, no, I'm joking.
It depends what you mean a fight. I mean,
no, I mean like a MMA, not a street
MMA fight. I don't know. I don't even know how big Joe Rogan is. I don't know very much about him. I don't know how big he is. I mean, I'm 6'4". I'm 110 kilograms, about 235 pounds. I'm a big guy.
Could you beat Sam Hyde in a fight?
Would I beat who?
Could you beat Sam Hyde in a fight?
I don't even know who that is. I don't even know who that is. Yeah.
Could you beat Ivan Drago in a fight?
You know what?
Dolph Lundgren. What?
So I met him.
You met Dolph Lundgren? Wow.
It broke my heart because I grew up watching the Rocky movies. Loved them. Now, they make movie stars look taller than they are in person. So when you Google Dolph Lundgren, they list his height as like 6'7" or 6'6". They list him as tall. But all movie stars, all of them, especially the tall ones, their height is lied about on the internet because no one ever really sees these people. So the bad guy who played Ivan Drago's son in Creed 2 is a Romanian kickboxer who I know. So he invited me to the Creed 2 premiere in New York City. It was about four years ago, maybe a while ago. Mm-hmm. So I thought, Creed 2 premiere, cool. Yeah, I knew this Romanian guy. So me and my brother fly over to New York City. And he's Romanian, but he's Ivan Drago's son or whatever. And I'm on the red carpet. I'm looking at everyone. And everyone's like, oh, Dolph Lundgren's coming. And it broke my heart that I was taller than him. I don't care what they list him as.
So it was Dwarf Lundgren.
I am 6'4". That's what I am. He was no taller than 6'2.5". And I thought, like, maybe old age shrank him a bit. I don't know. But it actually upset me. I was looking forward to meeting Ivan Drago and looking up like this because I was a little kid. I used to love these movies. And I was quite a bit taller than him. and it upset me. So could I beat him in a fight? But yes, I could beat Dolph Lundgren in a fight, I think. He did have one real boxing match in his life, and he's no Ivan Drago. He's old. He's not a fighter.
What about Steven Seagal? Because I've seen videos where Steven Seagal, like 20 dudes run at Steven Seagal, and he just goes like that, and he pushes them in the head.
You know what? Now, people laugh at Steven Seagal. I'm going to defend Steven Seagal, and I'm going to defend Chuck Norris, and I'm going to defend all these guys that everyone laughs at. Let me explain something. It's modern-day MMA nerds that always say stupid shit like, well, Chuck Norris, I'd just take him down. You said BJJ. No. You're wrong. Steven Seagal and Chuck Norris were tough guys before the UFC existed. They were tough guys before MMA was a sport. They were tough guys when Brazil was filled with people living in their mud huts and jungles with no internet access, and BJJ and the Gracie family hadn't developed their martial art yet. These guys were tough guys when the most someone might know on the street is a bit of hillbilly boxing. And if you came up to Steven Seagal or Chuck Norris in the 1970s, knowing what you knew back then, and tried to start a fight on them, they would whoop your ass. Absolutely, they would. But nowadays, it's 2020. These men are old. Their techniques are massively outdated. And these young guns are like, oh, well, I just use a BJJ armbar. It's like, well, what the hell are you talking about? These dudes were... Steven Seagal was in Japan learning from the Aikido masters in the 60s. He would have whooped your granddad. Doesn't matter what war your granddad fought in. He would have whooped his ass because he knew something no one at the time knew. And maybe in 50 years' time, people are going to look back at our MMA stars today. Be like, oh, BJJ, that's a load of nonsense. Nowadays, we have whatever it is. So, yeah, I'll defend Steven Seagal and Chuck Norris and all the guys that people laugh at. They're all tough for their time period.
What about Frank Dukes? Could you beat Frank Dukes?
Well, he was just a liar who made up fake stories.
Did he? Or did the CIA cover it up?
People believed his blood sports story and the Kumite, and they made the movie. But then he started saying nonsense like he won the Medal of Honor and the U.S. military deleted his records, and he's the first man to punch through bulletproof glass. He's just a lunatic and a fantasist. But you know what? You don't want to fight a lunatic. My brother always says, if a man believes he can rip your head off with his bare hands, would you let him try? Lunatic or not? I mean, I don't know. You don't want to fight lunatics.
That's a good point.
But
what about I had another one. I forgot who it was. So basically, you can beat up everybody.
I could be.
Could you beat your brother up?
No, my brother was the world champion. Brother's untouchable. I'm bigger than him. I may even be stronger than him, but I'll punch and miss. My nose has been broken 3 times. I won my fights by getting hit 4 times and hitting them 5. I was like a tank. Andrew never got hit ever, and just knocked people out. So he's a ninja. I'm more of a bull than a ninja. But
I know what it was. Could you beat up Jean-Claude Van Damme?
Jean-Claude Van Damme was a point fighter. He wasn't even a real kickboxer. He was like I'll tap you, I scored a point. He never fought full contact in his life. I certainly have a lot more kickboxing experience and I had a lot more real fights than Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Yeah, but he did ballet, so he could do the splits, dude.
Yeah, ballet's cool. I can do the splits. I'm not going to do it right now in your podcast. I can do splits, yeah.
Like between 2 points of the counter? He gets up on the counter?
I'm working on the side split. But I'll get there eventually. I'm training flexibility even still. But,
go ahead.
But I'm not the guy. Me and my brother were both not the guy who walked through the world being like, oh, I could beat this guy.
Oh, no, I'm just screwing around.
Yeah. There's violence, and there's a difference between fighting and violence. An average guy, if I'm sitting relaxing having a drink with my friend, an average guy can beat me in a fight because he'll come up behind me with a heavy metal ashtray and smash it across my head. You know, like the world is a violent, horrible place, and there's no real preparation for that besides hanging with a good group of people who are always vigilant. And that's the one thing I'll preach to people. More important than even your kickboxing or martial arts training, hang out with good, strong men who are vigilant and who've actually got your back, because the world's fucked.
Doorman $365. He says, "Screw reality. I'm going to find me a fantasy girlfriend, quote unquote. When we want to something greater, when we want to have." Wait, we have to want something greater for success in real love. Yeah, you can't. You're not going to be happy with a fantasy girlfriend. It's not real.
No, absolutely
That's
not.
why all these like Star Wars obsessed, like, beta nerds are not happy because they live in a fantasy world, and then the real world is miserable. So you gotta like
Yeah.
instantiate your will into this world.
So that's why a big fetish, especially in the online broadcast, the webcam industry, is cosplay. You've heard of this. So it's girls who usually have no interest in Star Wars or video games or any of that crap,
Yeah.
but they'll play a character. And their character is, I love Japanese culture too. I love playing video games. So in my career
Yeah.
running these studios, I've had two of these girls work for me where they would literally stream online playing various games, Counter-Strike, I don't know. I don't even know games. I can't even name them because I don't play video games. But they play all these various games with these dorks, and people pay $50 just for them to be on their team. And they'd be like, "Oh my god, yeah, you're such a cool guy. I love anime also." I don't know what anime really is. And then they hang up the call and they stop broadcasting and they take their stupid red wig off, and then they come to bed with me because they don't actually like the video game dorks. The girls who yeah, I know. The girls who like to say movies and stuff as these nerds, they do big online and they make a lot of money, but they're not interested in these guys, not 1%. I'll be like, I don't know what a Star Wars is. And
dorks out there, you're getting your dork titties milked by this guy.
You are, and you're buying me Lamborghinis and Ferraris, etc. So, thank you. But you know what? I did once feel sorry for a customer, and I tried to warn him not to spend his money. This is a true story. So 5 years ago, I just started my studio. A guy his grandmother had just died, and he was quite sad about it. And he was waiting for the house to be sold so the money could be split between the grandkids. £20,000 was the sum he was going to receive. So he was talking with one of my models. He said, "Oh, when I get £20,000, I'm going to call you every night for months because I know we're in love, and then we can meet up." It was all a big, obviously the girls are never going to meet these guys. So I had his phone number because the model had his phone number. And I called him. I said, "Hi, my name is Tristan Tate. I run a webcam studio here in Eastern Europe. The girl you think you're talking to, her name isn't Chloe. That's not her real name. She doesn't live in London. She lives in Bucharest. Like, it's all a big game. Enjoy these websites with a healthy attitude. Do not spend your grandmother's money. Don't do it." "Okay, thanks." He seemed quite embarrassed and hung up the phone. So I was sitting there in my office about 6 to 7 weeks later. And I had hired a new model from Lithuania, beautiful girl with black hair. And I was drinking my coffee, and she gets an incoming call, one of these $3-4 a minute calls, opens up the screen. It's this fucking guy again. I spit my coffee out all over my desk, literally. I'm like, what the hell is this guy doing on the website? So he starts talking to my Lithuanian model saying, "Yeah, I was really into this English girl on this same website, but she was a scammer, and I figured her out. She was trying to scam me." After I called him and told him not to, and I just said to my staff, I said, take every penny he's got. Take every single cent he's got. I don't care anymore. And I stopped feeling sorry for every single guy who indulges in this kind of entertainment from that moment on. Yeah, but I tried to be the good guy.
Mm-hmm. What about like, we've seen people from the pickup realm move in the direction of orthodoxy. People like Roosh. I don't know. Yeah. Have you listened to much of Roosh's stuff? Like he talks about the prevalence of sexual addiction and how sexual addiction itself can be a problem, not just for the nerds, but like for anybody in that game. I mean, isn't it something that would be better for you or any of us to have self-control of?
Well, everybody should have self-control over every element of their lives. I always preach self-control, and I'm a very controlled person. I do not suffer from any type of addiction at all. I'm accused often. I'm going to get to reasons why I don't like Roosh in a moment. I don't know very much about him. I do not like him.
Well, I just meant the argument about like sexuality itself as an addiction.
No, I mean, I believe, look, if you like dating beautiful women, like you said, at college, you go out, you try and meet chicks, you try and meet girls. I don't think whether you be atheist, a Christian, a Muslim, a Jew, I don't think there's anything more healthy and more natural than a young single man who isn't getting any to think, I'd love to meet a beautiful woman. I'd love to go and find a beautiful woman.
There's nothing wrong with that.
And I think the addiction side comes in only on a scale with the guys who aren't that successful. I think people like Roosh, he said a lot of things that are so untrue that I know he was just a pretender trying to reach the top levels of game. He'd be like, well, in Ukraine, I make $3,000 a month. There's no higher levels in Ukraine, though, so it doesn't matter. Yes, there are. I go to clubs in Ukraine, it's $10,000 to even get inside. Like, there are higher levels, and he never got there. And all the girls he was with were never that hot. So I think he was chasing the dragon, and he never caught the dragon. And what I really don't like about him now is he looks back at his past self with a lot of hatred and a lot of disdain, and that upsets me. I can become, if I'm a monk in 10 years, I will never ever look back at myself and say, oh, that guy, I hated who I was back then and what I was doing was wrong, because every step in your life leads you to where you are today. Bruce, you're happy with your conversion, you're happy that you're Christian, you're happy that you're going to celibate, whatever you're doing, you're happy, good. Then don't regret anything about your past.
But one of the fundamentals of this, the personalization of Christianity, when it becomes personal, not just like a cultural thing, is that we do have to change the way that we operate. So we have to move past our old life. So there's an aspect of the old life that we hate. It's not that we hate everything about our past selves. It's that the areas that were out of accord with God's law is what we get rid of.
Yeah, no, I can understand that. But I also believe if you were to, it's the butterfly effect. If you or Roosh or I had lived any differently, would we be where we are today? If I lived differently, let's say I had a more wholesome career.
But that's an unknown.
Would I have become, yeah, exactly. Right. It's an unknown. So if I'm happy with where I am now, I never see myself regretting anything I've done. But I agree that like that's an unknown. We don't know. It could have gone differently, but like we wouldn't use that to justify like let's say a guy murders a bunch of people and then he ends up in jail, and then he somehow gets out of jail, and then the murders that he and the struggles that he went through led him to believe in God or repent or something like that. Like it does, we wouldn't say that. Well, you had to have the murders in order to that's not necessary. And I know that's an extreme example, but in the same way, like I think the point of what Roosh is trying to get at is that it's not that he hates himself, but rather that the aspects of his life that were his own sexual addiction is what he's disliking. Yeah, maybe. And I think sexual addiction, as I said, I read a lot of Roosh's old stuff, but only very recently. I only learned who Roosh was about 6 months ago. I've never followed pickup Twitter or game Twitter. I fell into that kind of space on Twitter just from tweeting my own opinions. Not really because I followed any guru or leader, so to speak. And I don't know very much about Roosh. I really don't. But I do know that as much as he was worshipped back in the day for being, the Eastern European playboy type, like, I just know a pretender when I see one. And it's going to sound very arrogant, but there are, my friend Bobby Dino, devout Catholic, he's on Twitter. He did 10 years inside. And he says, when you speak to people who are talking about prison life and, I was inside for this or gangster life, someone like Bobby can see through them in a second. And I think there are levels to this, pick up and game and I guess the playboy lifestyle. Whereas when I could see a guy who's just, and I think Roosh was chasing the dragon. I think he never reached what he wanted to achieve for whatever reason. And he was beating himself up for a lot of years because of it. I've been to Ukraine. The women he's with were not that pretty. They're really not. He was just picking on poor student girls by walking around and approaching them. And I'd rather for him to be preaching about Orthodox Christianity today. I think it would be better if he was more happy and more fulfilled with life. And for whatever reason, he isn't. And he seems very bitter. And I think if he had lived the life like I had lived for even just a year or two, he'd be a lot happier and a lot less resentful about what he calls his addictions.
Well, I didn't know him when he was in his pickup days. I did read some of his books and follow Return of Kings, the website, for many years, but I didn't know him or meet him. But the times that I have talked or interacted with him, he's always seemed very genuine to me. I don't pick up any deception or bitterness. But whatever. That's your view. Woo Lad says for $5, please read Nihilism: Roots of the Revolution in the Modern Age by Seraphim Rose. Definitely a great book. I recommend it. It's a classic. Have you heard of Father Rose at all?
No, I have not.
He's
I
got
haven't.
some classics. You would, if you have a bit of a philosophical bent, you would probably like the book Nihilism. It's really good. I recommend that.
Yeah. I'm massive on because I love to drive. I switched about 5 6 years ago. I was a big. I mean, I would sit in the parks and read, etc. But now that a lot of my business is done on my phone, I can't switch off and get down with a paper book like I used to. But because I drive, always I love scenic roads. I
Audio.
love road trips. I love journeys. Audiobooks. It's always even the guys who are in my the guys who are in my cars like really I have to listen about Stalingrad while we're driving around the Ferrari. I'm like yeah you do because it's my car and that's what I want to listen to. So yeah, no, I'll get a lot of these on audio. I really will.
Chris B says for $3, are you an advocate of semen retention?
No, I think that's I think that's a very stupid idea. I think that there's a lot of I don't even want to call it pseudoscience. Look, if you're a guy who takes cold showers every morning and you believe that helps you, good for you. If you are a guy who preaches semen retention, if you believe that helps you, good for you. But the one thing I've never been an advocate of is telling people what will work for them besides leveling up, bettering yourself, getting physically fit, educating yourself, reading books, like the basic stuff. I don't think there's a trick or a hack. I mean, I don't understand why you would go without. Actually, well, to be fair, semen retention. I'm certainly morally against masturbation. I think masturbation is okay. Let's not call it evil. I think that the way society portrays masturbation in men in this day and age is very, very unhealthy. They talk about it being healthy and normal, and all normal people touch themselves, and they're trying to tell this to children in the United States. I mean, this is what leads to guys like the addicts on the sites that I'm talking about, who I have seen with my own eyes, who literally are masturbating 8 or 9 or 10 times a day. And like they're on my screens at my office. I know that they're doing it. And yeah, I don't think it is as normal or as healthy or as great as society is telling everybody it is. Certainly, it lowers your testosterone level. Certainly, you're using energy and fortitude and drive,
Yeah.
even the sexual drive to go out and meet women. At least you're out of your house, for God's sake. I think it's a very destructive habit unless used in severe moderation. So
Right.
that answers the question about semen retention. But at the same time, if you have a beautiful girlfriend who you're in love with and you have sex with her 4 times a day, good for you.
Well, I believe in semen retention. There's about 8 jugs in the basement of it. So, Doorman 360, $3. No wait, Vampire Frog $5. You think if you think communism? Oh, he's doing the Bane. He says do the Bane.
If you think communism is your ally, you merely adopted it. I was born by it, molded by it.
There you go. So you pay me $3, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Throw me money, I'll do the impersonations. I'm your dancing monkey. Doorman
He might
360
be from
says.
Eastern
Go
Europe
ahead.
or South America or something.
Go ahead.
I'm saying he might be from Eastern Europe or South America or something. You know, a lot of people, I mean, but people like that, they know the evils of it. And there's no system where it's ever worked, especially not here. So,
Doorman 360 for $5 says it's not just the big issue of the slow boys, but rather the fast boys who have no heart. The mad scientist elites like Gil Bates. Yeah, but Gil Bates is kind of a slow boy. Have you looked at his body? Look at that dude. He has the body of a grandma, dude.
exactly.
He's got a slow boy body and a fast boy mind.
Yeah, he's never done 10 push-ups in his life, that's for sure. So yeah, I mean, everything's about it's all about balance. But yeah, no, that is true. But in terms of U.S. politics and all these things about mandatory and stuff, I hate to say I don't care because I do care. But I've been out of the United States.
Let's hold that off because YouTube will destroy this whole stream, so we can't talk. We'll hold off on
You're right.
that one.
Yeah,
But
I forgot the subject. In fact, that's the reason I'm not smoking my cigar. So yeah, absolutely. Let's not do that. All right, change the subject. Let's go. What's next?
Doorman 360 says, as a guy who has wasted a lot of time with video games, anime, and other vices, I can confirm that it is a curse. It's time to accept reality, folks. That's where God is. Yeah, I agree. The irony is that a lot of times if people think, oh, I'm going to adopt atheism and then I can just fulfill my pleasures, and they don't realize that when you're addicted to video games, when you're addicted to porn, when you're addicted to those things, it's sucking away your whole life, your essence, your energy, your income, and there is more. It's only damaging you.
Yes, and I think, and like I said, I believe most things in life, besides hard drugs and maybe pornography, can be used in moderation. So I know people who play video games who live very healthy lives.
Yeah, I agree.
But I'll just say, it's a lecture I gave to a young cousin of mine. Not this one here, another cousin of mine was playing some online RPG. I want to say World of Warcraft, and he was explaining the game to me. He's like, oh, my character's, his strength level is this, his intellect level is this. He's explaining all these various levels to me of his character in this game. And I said to him, like, well, what are your levels? Why not, instead of, spending an hour killing imaginary frogs or pigs or whatever it is you're doing, spend an hour working out, work on your own strength level. Why don't you pick up a book, work on your own intelligence level? And I think a lot of guys who'll be like, oh, but I enjoy gaming. I love video games. I'm like, cool. Well, you can play your video game where you're driving around in a Ferrari, your Need for Speed or whatever. I'm going to get in my Ferrari and drive around because that's more fun, because the real world is more interesting, and because I put in the work to actually get here. So, I mean, you use video games in moderation if you like, but they are very much an escape from reality. And I think there's always something better to invest your time in.
Absolutely. Amen to that. All right. Looks like that's all the super chats. It was a great chat. Thank you so much, Tristan.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
Do you prefer people go to the Instagram or the Twitter or both? Do you have any
Twitter or Instagram? Instagram, I'm Lives Talisman, as in the talisman lives. Instagram, I'm Talisman Tate. Twitter, I'm Lives Talisman. Find me wherever. I like to reply to DMs, messages. I'm always, an ear for advice, especially if you're young and you don't know where you're going in your life.
And you said it's Taliban Lives?
Talisman.
I'm just joking. It was a joke.
Talisman, that was my fight name, Tristan the Talisman Tate. I got that name when I was very young. So yeah, it means good luck charm, because I'm a good person to have on your side. And thank you very much for having me on the podcast. Obviously, I have I'm moving away in these days and times from more of the adult entertainment stuff I was doing, but I have my brother's organization, the War Room, where we coach young men. I do my mentorships and everything within the War Room. That's available at cobratate.com. But yeah, hit me up anywhere, guys. Find me anywhere. I'm happy to answer your questions whenever I have the time.
And I saw you got to eat dinner with Alex, correct?
Yeah. No, I have had dinner with Alex Jones.
I know. Yeah, I heard your interview where you said that. That's
yeah. No, I have that. You know what? Very cool guy. But let's not say that on YouTube. So,
well, I've been hosting the 4th hour, so.
Oh, good. All right, wonderful.
All right, well, thank you, Tristan. It was a great conversation. Maybe you come back and we can talk about more philosophical subjects in the near future if you're willing.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. Anytime. Let's give it a few months. Let me continue my journey down the road of Orthodox Christianity. I'm happy to get deeper into the conversation with you.
Awesome.